Okay, so today we're going to be replacing the gearbox mount on my Audi TT Mark II. It's feeling a little bit shaky, like when I shake the engine. You should be able to see this when I do it. That moves around quite a lot. I hope you can see that. And when I'm changing gear, I find it quite hard sometimes, especially going from first to second, when I'm like revving the engine quite a lot and driving a bit spiritedly. So I think it's time for a change. It's always a good idea to just change engine mounts. Now, this is my engine mount. I bought it off of online car parts for, I think, 45 quid. It's a Lemforder one, which I believe is the OEM grade one anyway. Lemforder make very good parts usually. So I'll be putting that in today. Now, technically, you need new bolts. This has 7 bolts. So you've got 3 here, like you can see there, and there's 4 here. Technically, you need new bolts because these are torque to yield bolts, which means that when you put them in the first time, when you torque them up correctly, they stretch out slightly. But I don't have those bolts. Some garages will reuse torque to yield bolts once or twice. It's not an awful practice, but if you have the bolts, or if you haven't forgotten to order them like me, go ahead and get them. Sadly, I'm pretty sure the bolts will cost almost as much as the mount, so it should cost like 70 or 80 quid in total. Now, to do this job, you're going to need some sockets with a wrench. Sorry, not a wrench, a ratchet. I don't know what size these are. These 17s or they 18s? They are 18 mil, those ones on the top there, and we'll find out what size these ones are underneath this cable like guide in a minute. We're going to need to jack up the car at some point because before we take off the engine mount, the transmission mount, we need to jack up the car and support the gearbox from underneath the car. Otherwise it will fall when we take off the mount and we won't be able to put on the new one and we might damage some things. So you'll need 2 jacks, maybe 1 jack, sorry. You'll need 2 axle stands so that you can use a jack to jack up the car, and you'll need a breaker bar and basically the ability to remove a wheel, maybe. We're going to try and do it without removing a wheel first, though, because it's always nice to avoid. Now, let's get started with this sort of like cable guide. So there's a little clip here, just pop that up and flip that over. Now, there are 2 zip ties. Here, there's one, and there's one over here. You should be able to see them very easily. As far as I know, I've looked at a guide on this, so I haven't done this job before. As far as I know, you just have to cut those out and replace them afterwards if you want to do so, because there's no real way of getting them out, apparently. But, yeah, it doesn't look very good. So I'm just going to use a knife and carefully cut that. There we go, there's one. There we go. It doesn't look like you'd be able to remove that otherwise. Here's the second one. It's very hard to do. There we go. There's the second one. Just take that out. Spet the wire. No, I didn't cut the wire. That's all good. Yeah, there's this little thing here. So you just pull that out. You can put new zip ties in afterwards. I probably will be, unless I think that they're utterly pointless. Right, so now I think we're able just to lift out most of these cables. Actually, I think we're able just to give the guide sort of like a tug and it will come unclipped. Yeah, there you go. There's one. Try not to break anything. Old clips are brittle, so don't be too rough with them. I believe you just pull it up. There you go. And there we go. We can now access those bolts underneath. Goody goody. Now we need to jack up the car. This is the scariest bit of the entire thing because you have to get the car quite high up. I'm going to be leaving the wheels on because now that I think about it, you don't actually need to take these wheels off at all. I'm just so used to taking the wheels off before I get the car up that it was out of habit. So let's jack up the car now. So let's get the jack underneath the car. Now remember, you will need axle stands for this for 2 reasons. One, you're going underneath the car, and I would never go underneath a car without axle stands on it, or some sort of like brick system or anything to back up the jacks. Even using 2 jacks is fine on one side of the car, because then you have a double layer of safety. But always have a double layer of safety. If a jack fails, however rare it is, there's a high chance you are no longer going to be working on cars, shall we say. So make sure your handbrake is on for this. Jack up the car, there we go. Now I'm going to go around to the other side and jack up the other side of the car, and then we'll work on getting the axle stands underneath. There we go. And just raise it all up. Going to use my phone to show you where I'm putting the axle stands. Underneath the car, right here, is the subframe, like, to wishbone like mount, and I'm going to be putting it just underneath that bolt right there. It's a very strong bolt, I promise. It's not going to break the bolt or damage the bolt. It's a very, very strong bolt. Okay, so now that the car is up off of the floor, we need to get underneath the car and take off the under tray so that we are then able to take the jack and hold up the gearbox. So I've taken the camera off of my head for this because it's quite hard to film, but basically there are various bolts around the outside of the under tray. Mine's missing most of them, which isn't the best, but you should be easily able to get underneath that. Now, if you're a little bit like scared or unconfident, whatever word you want to use, which is perfectly reasonable, go up to your car once you've got it on the axle stands and just give it a good old shake around, and that'll give you a bit of confidence that you're safe underneath your car. And remember, I've got 2 axle stands underneath and 2 jacks underneath my car. This is a perfectly safe thing to do. Now all you need to do is go underneath, find the right size. Now these are usually Torx screws they've got underneath there, so find the right Torx screw size and go to ham. They're usually T20, T25 or T40, getting bigger as you go back towards the rear of the car. There we go. Now there's only one in the front holding it up. I believe this is the final one for the entire under tray. There we go, under tray off. Now, also, the added bonus of taking off your under tray is you can check for any potential oil leaks. Now, I think I might have a slight oil leak because I've got a bit of like oil catching here. It's a bit grimy, but it might also be from when I tried to put some oil in and spilled a little bit. But we also have a look underneath whilst we're here, and yeah, you can see there's definitely a little oil leak here. Let me see if I can show it on camera, because I have got some grime and shit appearing on my underside of my oil pan there. So I've got a very slight oil leak, but nothing too serious. Doesn't look like. Nah, it's all right. Not noticing any overly large oil consumption either, which is a good thing. Now I've got the under tray off, we can look at putting this jack underneath the gearbox to hold it up. So let me just take this jack from over here quickly, and then I shall bring the jack round. Oh, I'm just going to jack it up, and I'm going to position it just underneath the main bit there, just like this. If my jack's tall enough, my jack might not be tall enough. There we go, just about, it just about reached. So there is the gearbox being held up by the jack. Now my jack is technically at max extension right now, but that should be good enough. Maybe not, I'm gonna go get a piece of wood so that I get an extra bit of height out of my jack. Here we go, just 2 simple pieces of wood. I'm just going to put them underneath like that so that I get a bit more height out of my jack. This also has the benefit of spreading the load of the gearbox on the jack. And there we go, now the gearbox is held. Just going to lower it very slightly. Don't want to put too much force through it, otherwise it makes taking the bolts out of the top a bit harder. But there we go, it's now sitting on the jack, and we're ready to go back up to the top of the car now. Okay, so now that the gearbox is supported by the jack and the piece of wood underneath, we can get started at taking off this mount. Now we're going to start with these three big ones here. These are size 18, I believe, bolts. These are size 18 bolts, I believe, so I need to grab the 18 mil. I need my ratchet with a slight extension on it, and we can go to town. Shove that on there, make sure it's set to undo. There we go. Shove it on there. Now these will probably be quite tight, so you might have to use a bit of force. Oh, that's quite a lot of force actually. Wow, that has not come off yet. There we go. There we go. That one broke off. That's really tight though, that's hurting. Oh, that second one was a lot easier. And now this third one. Let's not do it from there. Let's get a nice purchase on it. And there we go, it's coming round. There we go. Now, I'm not gonna take these out all the way yet. We're just loosening them so that they're broken. Now we're gonna do the 4 bolts underneath here. As you can see on the new one, just to remind you, we've got the 3 bolts that we can see there coming through here, and we've got 4 underneath. Now, I believe these are size 16. They look like size 16s. Let's give it a go on this one here. It's a size 16. Yeah, it's a size 16. So just, again, these ones are a lot looser. Just loosen them all off. There we go. That one's loose. Try and get this out of the way. Oh, that's a bit tough. There we go, just make room for yourself. Everything's a bit cramped in here. There we go. That one's loose now. Now the 4th one underneath here, twist it out that way and get access. There we go. There we go. Now we can remove everything. I'm going to take these 4 small ones out. In fact, this one's actually coming out by hand, which is quite nice. Like I said, these are supposed to be replaced, these bolts, but it looks pretty over-engineered. You've got 7 quite large bolts holding in the transmission just on this side, and then the engine mount on the other side, and the dog bone mount at the bottom of the transmission, or the gearbox, really I should be calling it. So I really don't think there's too much worry reusing these bolts. If you have the time and the cash and the wherewithal to order them beforehand, go for it. But if you're stuck in a pinch, don't worry too much. There, that one's come out. Are they the same? Yeah, they're the same. So you don't need to remember which ones came from which hole. I'm now going to undo the big bolts directly connected to the gearbox mount, just so that when I take these off, supposedly the gearbox will not fall away, but the weight will be taken off, and then it'll be much easier to deal with the gearbox mount. Now, I'm just thinking about when we put the new one on. You see how these are oval-shaped holes? I'm presuming that you don't want to tighten this up with the gearbox jacked all the way up. Otherwise, it's not in a natural position. It will put stress on the bushing. So I imagine what you do is you put all these 4 smaller bolts in that connect the mount to the chassis. You put them in and tighten those up fully. And then you put these bigger bolts in almost all the way tight, so they're a tiny bit loose, then let the gearbox rest by taking the jack out from underneath, and then you tighten up the bolts so that it sits naturally in a rest position that it's most comfortable in, and there should be the most minimal amount of stress on the bushing. Because if you tighten it up, and let's say that it's pushed all the way up, I imagine, oh, look at that, that is awful. I imagine if you tighten it up, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Imagine if you tighten it up not in its rest position. It puts loads of stress on the bushing. And look at that. That is awful. I am so glad we're changing that. For comparison, look, just shaking it around, it's knocking everywhere. Do it on the same on this, almost nothing. So I'm very glad we're changing that. This should make shifting feel a lot nicer. So let's just undo these final bolts here with the 16mm again. Let's get this out of there. Come on. Oh, almost. There we go, it's out. And look at that, just all gone, just wiggling around in there, completely and utterly fucked. And it's squeaking at me. Yeah, so for reference, I'll hold it still here, wiggle it all around like that. I get the new one, hold it in the same place, do the same thing, and it barely moves. Like, there's a little bit of play because it's a bushing, it's supposed to have play. But yeah, this one is absolutely fucked. If you do it inside and out, yeah, it moves inside and out as well. Very glad we're changing this. Let's get the new one back inside. I'm just gonna go show this to my dad because I like showing him when stuff's completely fucked on my car. Okay, so let's throw this new mount inside. So just gonna try and get it to slide its way in there, just like so. So let's get these 4 small bolts in now. We'll do this one first, it's the easiest looking one. The 4 bolts are supposed to be torqued up to 90 newton meters and then another 90-degree turn. So 40 newton meters. And then the big bolts are supposed to be 60 newton meters plus a 90-degree turn. Now I have a, what are these called? A torque wrench. Yeah, torque ratchet, whatever, which is in pound-feet. So I'm going to look at 40 newton meters to pound-feet, which is just about 30 foot-pounds. So I'm going to set this to 30 foot-pounds, which doesn't feel like much, really. And then it's plus 90 degrees, so there's about 30 foot-pounds, so that's it. And then plus another 90 degrees, so we're coming to here. Which is that. Lovely. Now, I'm going to do the same on this bolt here. There's 30 foot-pounds, and then rotate it 90 degrees like that. Now, the last 2, there's your 30 foot-pounds, 90 degrees. And honestly, this feels tighter than the ones I undid. And then final one, same again, 30 foot-pounds there, rotate it to 90 degrees, it's basically 90 degrees. That's good enough. Whew, those are tight. Now it's time for the actual gearbox bolts, so I'm gonna get the 3 big ones. And they're not perfectly lined up, they're gonna pull themselves into position in a minute. Now remember, these are torqued to 60 newton meters and then a 90-degree turn, which is 45 foot-pounds with a 90-degree turn. But we'll just see how tight I can get them first. So I am actually going to take the jack away from underneath the car because there's no harm that it can do. So grab the jack handle and lower it. There we go, it's away from the car now. So the gearbox is properly hanging. I'm going to get the shorter extension on, so because I'm less likely to break a short extension than a long one. And let's tighten this up. So I'm going to set this to 45 foot-pounds, which is that. Nope, which is that. There's it clicked. So now we need 90 degrees from there. There's 45 degrees. Oh, that's as tight as I can get it. That's gonna be tight enough. Like, these bolts have already stretched. These are not going to get back into the position. That's fucking tight. I can tell you that. Let's try again with this. That's really tight now as well. With a lot of bolts, apart from small ones, with big bolts like this where I'm not afraid of breaking them really, if I can't get them to torque because they're torque to yield bolts, I basically just do them tight as fuck. And that's enough for me. There we go, that's all tight as fuck. And then we're done. Whew. So now all you got to do, I'm not going to record it because it's very simple. All you've got to do is put the under tray back on underneath the car. Actually, no, you've got to clip this back down first. My mistake. Let's clip this back down. There's little holes here that you'll see, and there's little clips underneath this guide, so just push them back through the holes. Do the same on this side, and then close it round. It's maybe the clip's broke on mine because it's still flopping around a little bit. I think what I might have to do is zip tie it back into the car. Let me just go do that. Let me just get some zip ties. There we go. And all now you got to do, which I'm not going to record, like I said, is put the under tray back on, lower the car, and Bob's your uncle. It's very simple. You've already done the reverse of this, so thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this was helpful. Maintain your cars, people. Bye.